Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Sierra Center for Spiritual Living. My name is Reverend Rafe Ellis. I want to take just a real quick moment to welcome everybody in the room. Woo! Welcome everybody on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Zoom. We are experiencing a transcendence of time and space. How cool is that? So we're going to get started right away with our first two community songs. I invite you to lift your voice. Let's fill this universe with song. Here we go.
Two, one, two, three, four. Woke up this morning with my mind stayed on spirit. Woke up this morning with my mind stayed on spirit. Woke up this morning with my mind stayed on spirit. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Walking and talking with my mind stayed on spirit. Walking, talking with my mind stayed on spirit. Walking, talking with my mind stayed on spirit. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hey, hate your neighbor, in your mind stayed on spirit. You can't hate your neighbor in your mind stayed on spirit. You can't hate your neighbor in your mind stayed on spirit. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. You love everybody in your heart stayed on spirit. You love everybody in your heart stayed on spirit. You love everybody in your heart stayed on spirit. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Woke up this morning in my mind stayed on spirit. Woke up this morning in my mind stayed on spirit. Woke up this morning with my mind stayed on spirit. Hallelujah, 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 I'm choosing heaven today. I'm choosing heaven today. I am walking the road of heaven right now, singing. I'm choosing heaven today. I'm choosing love today. I'm choosing love today. I am walking the road of heaven right now, singing. I'm choosing heaven today. I'm choosing peace today. I'm choosing peace today. I am walking the road of heaven right now, singing. I'm choosing peace today. I choose compassion. I choose compassion today. I choose compassion today. I am walking the road of heaven right now, singing. I choose compassion today. I choose abundance. I choose abundance today. I choose abundance today. I am walking the road of heaven right now, singing. I choose today. I'm choosing heaven. I'm choosing heaven today. I'm choosing heaven today. I am walking the road of heaven right now, singing. I'm choosing heaven today. I am walking the road of heaven right now, singing. I'm choosing heaven. I'm choosing heaven.
Indeed, I am choosing heaven today, and I hope you are joining me. So, for those of you that have joined while we were singing, my name is Reverend Rafe Ellis, and I am so incredibly honored and privileged and proud to be the senior minister here at Sierra Center for Spiritual Living. I want to welcome everybody who's joining us in the room. Everybody, we're going to turn church into a stadium event. Want to welcome everybody joining us on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Zoom. So far, I know we have on Facebook anyway, Roger and Barbara, so welcome. I can't see who's on Zoom, so please don't take it personal that I'm not personally identifying you. I just can't see you, but I know you're there. All right. So let me remind us of who we are and share with our guests who we are. We are a radically inclusive, spiritually progressive, supportive community that celebrates the very diversity of creation. We strive to live authentic spiritual lives through a practical application of the teachings of science of mind. We engage in sacred practices that uplift our spirit, deepen our awareness, and ignite our soul's self-expression. We demonstrate active compassion to ourselves, to one another, and the world. We experience meaningful contribution by giving generously of our time, talents, and treasures. And we intentionally, on purpose, shamelessly promote our community and our teachings. And so if you're joining us virtually this morning, you can participate immediately in that practice by sharing this live stream to whatever social media platform you play on. You can also find the link on our YouTube page, Sierra Spiritual, at any time and share it on social media or via email to somebody that you think might enjoy it. And so one of the things that we do every Sunday morning to honor and actually practice inclusion is we have an inclusion candle lighting ritual. And we light these candles to celebrate the unity of all people, all faiths, all beings, all life. We light the first candle for the shamanic traditions, honoring the beliefs and practices of all indigenous peoples, the ways of foundational spirituality. We light the second candle for Hinduism, honoring the path of knowledge, action, and devotion. We light the third candle for Taoism, honoring the path of ultimate reality, the natural way. We light the fourth candle for Judaism, honoring the ethical path of living by sacred law. We light the fifth candle for all forms of Buddhism, honoring the middle way and path of compassion. We light the sixth candle for all forms of Christianity, honoring the teachings of Jesus as the path of love, forgiveness, and healing by the presence within. We light the seventh candle for all forms of Islam, honoring the path of submission to the will of God as the highest calling. We light the eighth candle for the religion of Baha'i, honoring the path of unity and peace. We light the ninth candle for all forms of New Thought teachings, honoring the metaphysical path of mental healing through the practice of universal spiritual principles of love and law. And we light the 10th candle for absolute inclusivity, affirming that all are welcome and celebrated here. And we light this final candle, honoring the infinity of oneness as all creation, seen and unseen. Masking has created a partnership. There we go. I'm back. All right. So we're going to move on. Thank you for your patience. If we have a few glitches, we have somebody training, our first volunteer to train to build a tech team. So we're just going to stand in appreciation, patience, and grace with any glitches that we have this morning. So we're going to move on with our next community song. I invite you to lift your voice right where you are, join in, and let's do some singing. You click on the arrow, Dell. You have to click on the arrow. So this is our time of announcements, and before we get to the slides, I want to let everybody know I have been in contact with our musicians. Now that Nevada County has managed to get ourselves into the red tier out of the purple tier, we're going to come back together in consultation with them in their comfort zone. So we're going to record for one more month. We're going to come in, I think, Saturday. And we're going to record new music for the month of April. And then if everything continues to progress, we will have the musicians back in the room live in May. Incremental steps. And so we're just holding a consciousness that everybody does their part, that we continue to progress to a greater return to freedom. And I don't mean constitutionally, I just mean freedom to move about the plane. the Southwest Constitution. All right, so let's take a look at our announcements. We have offering virtually our Actualizing Wholeness discussion group. And it is a fun, throw caution to the wind time where we really just allow whatever questions and ideas that pop into our head to be there and to explore them with an abandoned curiosity with no agenda to find an answer. It is simply for the joy of exploration and experiencing consciousness at that level. We have folks joining us. We have had folks from Arizona. We have a pretty consistent member from Canada. So it's a chance to be in community with folks that you're not in the same geographical area with. So I encourage you to check that out. Okay, Ask the Rev Anything. I launched it on Wednesday. You will notice there are a bunch of questions on this wheel. Finally, it's all filled up. And I'm not going to read them all to you, but let me tell you what a couple of them are. If it's all God, why do bad things happen? Is one. What does spiritual bypass mean? Is another one. Can we really experience oneness? Is another one. And let's see. How does my thinking create reality? And so it's an interactive, you can be here in the room with us, or you can interact with us on Facebook and YouTube, because I can actually see the comments on Facebook and YouTube while it's live streaming. So I encourage you to come play. Again, there are as many answers to those questions as there are people on the planet. And so it's really about exploration and opening ourselves to a greater experience of consciousness. And that's Wednesday from 5 to 6. Values clarification. This is the last week that's up for this next step. We narrowed it down to 40 from 120, and I've asked folks to pick their top 10, and then we'll see what evolves from that. Ultimately, we're headed towards 7. If you want to have a voice in this process, check out the link to that. It's on our newsletter. The newsletter is available on our Facebook page. It is available on our website. It is available in your email. If you are currently not getting our newsletter and you would like to, simply send me an email that says newsletter please to revrafe@sierracenter.org, and I will get you connected with that. Okay. So this is our time of inward shift. So I invite you just to let everything else slip away. We're going to do a brief meditation, and then our practitioner this morning, the lovely, amazing Deborah Ellis, there's absolutely no bias in me, will lead us in our opening spiritual mind treatment and reading our affirmation. Enjoy. Today's contemplative reading is from Asian American lecturer Phoebe Ng. Risk itself is a process of constant unfolding, and taking risks is the process of peeling back the layers of what you are and who you want to be. The day comes when remaining the same becomes more painful than the risk to grow. And when that happens, there are many goodbyes. We leave old patterns, old friends and lovers, old ideas, and some cherished beliefs. Loss and growth are so often one and the same.
Allowing your next breath to be a little bit deeper than the one before. Anchoring in the awareness that there is a majesty and a power and a presence. It is deep and abiding joy. It is perfect peace. It is love. It is reigning supreme in and through and as all of creation. There is no spot where this love is not. It is knowing itself exquisitely as the mighty river of life. It is present in the very breath of all of creation. It is that point of light that interconnects everything that is seen and everything that is unseen. It is a mighty, mighty presence of joy. It is my breath. It is breathing me. It is connecting me to all of life. And so it's from this place of truth that I speak a word of blessing this morning, claiming, affirming that this love knows no bounds, that it expands forever, spiraling up, in and through, as all around, touching every heart, expressing every need met. It is present in every cell, in all of creation. So it is with great joy that I recognize this truth and blessing this morning at this place we call Sierra Center for Spiritual Living. So thankful and so grateful for these light beings that are right here in this very room. And I recognize that there's enough love right here, right now, to fill every space, to be a powerful and mighty presence in the world. And so my heart is filled with gratitude. And we simply just take this love and pull it through that needle, pull it through that thread, as that thread, through every place that we find ourselves, right here, right now, and beyond. So I simply now release into that alchemy of love and law and accept that there is even greater than I speak this morning. And I feel the joy and the peace of love. And so I release and let it go and let it be. And we anchor this together by saying, and so it is. Good morning, beloved, beautiful people. We're growing. Awesome, awesome. All right, so my name is Deborah Ellis, and I am privileged to be one of your licensed practitioners here at the Sierra Center for Spiritual Living. So wherever you're tuning in from, welcome, welcome. We're so glad you're here with us this morning. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to read the affirmation, and then we're going to read it together. So I will read it once through, and then we'll read it together. All right, here we go. I relax and behold God's grace unfolding as my life. I relax and behold God's grace unfolding as my life. And so it is. Blessed be and welcome to this day.
It's a long way from Lakewood to the timberline, but it's a short time we have here. It's a cold winter day blowing through the ponderosa pine, but it's a good dream I won't let to your ear. The raven there glide and begin to circle overhead. Hear him call out to his mate there on the forest floor. Cracked voice, but not grave. He's offering a sign instead. He's talking to us too, and he's not saying nothing more. Fahrenheit and snow begin to fall. We out here lost with no hope of relief. Bitter cold may find us, but I've a knife and a piece of flint here in my bag. Let our love remind us that in the end the worst case could be only a snag. All we need is just one spark to build a fire against the gathering dark. Set the tinder ablaze. Yeah, then we tend that fire like you raise a child. Nurture it, protect it while you let it grow wild. And stand back amazed at the natural grace. Fahrenheit and snow begin to fall. We're out here lost with no hope of relief. The bitter cold may find us, but I've a knife and a piece of flint here in my bag. That in the end the worst case could be only a snag. All you need is just one spark to build a fire against the gathering dark. Set the tinder ablaze. Yeah, rivet in that fire like you raise a child. Nurture it, protect it while you let it grow wild. Stand back amazed at the natural grace.
Thank you, gentlemen. Let's take a breath together. So all month long, we've been looking at open to possibilities in the context of our annual theme, Timeless Wisdom, Evolutionary Vision. And so the timeless wisdom statement that we've been working with from Ernest Holmes' What I Believe, which we adopted as our organizational What We Believe statement, has been, we believe in the direct revelation of truth through our intuitive and spiritual nature. Notice it doesn't say through telegrams. Through our intuitive and spiritual nature. And that anyone may become a revealer of truth who lives in close contact with the indwelling God. Our evolutionary statement this month comes from our Centers for Spiritual Living organizational global vision. We see a world in which each and every person lives in alignment with their highest spiritual principle, emphasizing unity with God and connection with each other. A world in which individually and collectively we are called to a higher state of consciousness and action. That's what I'm all about. Yeah. That's, but it requires that we do a few things to get there. And so the first week we looked at living in the question, becoming the caterpillar, if you will, recognizing our caterpillarness and wondering if there's more. See, I'm not sure the caterpillar really knows about butterflyness, but I'm sure by looking at the process that the caterpillar goes through, that there's something in it that is calling it to express more, whether it knows it or not. Because if there wasn't that question of what next, it would just stay a caterpillar forever, right? So we looked at living in the question, opening to just the question. Right? Notice living in the question doesn't say getting all the answers. But we want those, right? I don't blame you. I want them too. You know, I want telegrams. I want billboards. I want guarantees, if I'm being honest. And I want someone else to take responsibility if it doesn't work. Right? Even if I miss the clues, I want it to be your fault. Anybody want to take that on for me? No? You can always hope. Here's what Reverend Dr. Michael Beckwith, who really brought forward this whole idea of visioning to us, says. The purpose of visioning is not simply about the narrow confines of personal fulfillment. It's not about getting stuff. It is an expansion of consciousness into the realization of your true self. That's why we ask the question, what is the divine's highest idea of itself as my life? Because that's the question to live in. Right? So week 2, we looked at release and let go. Now, in the caterpillar's world, that is becoming the chrysalis. That is that process where we enter the cocoon, where we let go of the identity that we know ourselves, or shall I say, think ourselves to be. Now, it's interesting to me, in the science of the whole caterpillar chrysalis butterfly thing, there is this thing called imaginal cells. And as the chrysalis does its thing, it literally, the caterpillar literally in that cocoon disintegrates into a gelatinous goo. At which point the imaginal cells take over and begin to nourish themselves off of what used to be the caterpillar to become the butterfly. We are imaginal cells, and within us is the power to create. Just like creation, it is our DNA. It is the essence of us. And so when we talk about consciousness and the creative process that is always operating through our thoughts, that is our imaginal cell process. Right? I think one of the things that happens, well, before I jump on to the next step, here's what Dr. Beckwith says. Also, all spiritual growth, 100% of it, is about releasing and eliminating rather than attaining something. Let me say that again. All spiritual growth, 100% of it, is about releasing or eliminating rather than attaining something. because we're already it spiritually. See, let's go back to the chrysalis for a minute. There's nothing outside of that chrysalis that becomes the butterfly. Right? Everything that is needed for that butterfly is already there when the caterpillar enters the chrysalis. You are not missing anything, so stop looking for it. You already are everything you seek. But how many of us spend thousands of dollars? One of the questions on that wheel is actually, why has New Thought become so marketed to fixing things? Right? Because there's a faction of it that has. And it's a misuse of principle. Let me just say that right now. And if you're one of those marketers and this upsets you, good. That means you heard me. It is a misuse of principle. And it's a faction that is operating from the ego, preying on the vulnerability of human ego to sell the idea that there is something missing in you and someone else has the answer. And I'm telling you right now, it's a lie. Stop telling yourself that anything in you is missing. Let that lie go. Because ain't nothing missing. God didn't make you almost complete. Everything you need, you already are. It's releasing the stuff that blocks us from experiencing ourselves that's the problem. Rumi says it this way. Ours is not to create, not to seek for or create more love, but simply to remove the barriers that we have created against it. We've been socialized to think we're broken. We've been socialized to think we're inadequate. We've been socialized to seek answers outside of ourselves. And we've been socialized at different levels of intensity. Let's just tell the truth. Okay? Men have been socialized to think they're way more powerful than everybody else. It's just true. It's not good, it's not bad, it's just true. Women have been socialized to believe that their intuitive voice is too hysterical. They're making stuff up. Blah, blah, blah. It's not true. Your divine voice speaks to you however it speaks to you. And so our work is really about removing all of those lies, all of the conditioning that keeps us from knowing the truth of us. Now, let's look at the butterfly here for just a minute. Because one of the things that I've noticed in myself and in working with others is that we get real attached to the idea of what a butterfly should look like. Right? There's the monarch, and there's the blue swallowtail, and then there's everything else. Right? And so we get real attached to thinking we're supposed to be a monarch or a blue swallowtail. Well, did you know that there are over 17,500 species of butterflies on this planet? Perhaps in the infinity of creation, your butterflyness ain't going to look like nobody else's. Perhaps it's not supposed to. Perhaps your emergence from the chrysalis is supposed to be 17,501. Or 2. Or 3. Creation doesn't replicate itself. It expands itself. Replication is what we do in human form. right? We replicated these chairs in the room. There are no two people alike. Even identical twins, not exactly alike, right? And so if we will lean into, takes us back to the question, what is Spirit's highest idea of itself as my life? What is my unique butterflyness? And be open to that. It changes everything. We stop looking for someone else's approval. I mean, how many of us have spent most of our lives trying to measure up to somebody else's idea of us? What if they're wrong? What if their idea of you is too small? What if their idea of you is actually their idea of themselves as you? I know as parents, we fall into that real easily. Right? Right? We get stuck in, from the gate, who do they look like? Who cares? They look like themselves. Ain't about you. Right? But we're conditioned to value our children looking like us. We're conditioned to value our children growing up with our values. What if we opened up to letting our children expand us? What if we did that? I know there's one mother sitting in this room right now that has a son that I guarantee you he's expanding her. Because I've met that brilliant little soul. And he ain't about being contained. What if we nurtured that in one another? Even as adults. What if we met one another and when we said, "How are you?" we really meant it. And we shut up and listened. I mean, I love the sincerity of the drive-by. "Hey, how you doing?" Really? You don't really want to know, because if you do, you got to stop. Right? What if we took the time to really connect with one another? What magnificent thing is happening in your life today? What's alive in you to express today? And just listen. And then listen to your own internal, because sometimes what's alive in that person to express today connects with what's alive in you to express today. And partnerships are formed that we didn't even know were out there. That we didn't even know. But we got to be open. And that's that place where we talked about last week with open arms, right? Because we cannot manifest what we won't open up to. I can't embody an idea that I'm not open to even consider, right? And so we open up. Then comes the commit to transformation part, which is where we're at today. Now, folks, here's the thing that we got to really understand about transformation. Transformation literally means the previous version becomes unrecognizable. When we see a butterfly, when we see a moth, we don't see the caterpillar. You don't know what the caterpillar looked like. You don't have any idea. Because the previous version is unrecognizable. Are you willing? And this is big. Let me just say that. This is big. Are you willing to commit your life to a level of expansion to where you become a new version with the older version of you previously unrecognizable? It's big. It's big. It's the stuff that the recovering community lives in all the time. right? Because if you look at me today, I'm dressed nice, I'm speaking well. You have no idea that for 16 years I shoved heroin in my arm. You have no idea. You have no idea of the behaviors I engaged in because the previous version of me is unrecognizable. Thank God. Thank God. But here's the piece I think we forget. Nothing that I learned during that time has left me. Right? The imaginal cells that were infused with wisdom are still there. The foundation is still there. The foundation of the caterpillar is still in the butterfly. It is what it is built out of. Right? So transformation doesn't mean obliteration. It doesn't mean we throw out our past. It means we transform ourselves. We become a new, unrecognizable us, an expanded us, a magnificent us beyond what we can currently comprehend. That's the problem with limiting ourselves with an idea, with a picture. What if you didn't pick what kind of butterfly you're going to be? What if you just stepped into the chrysalis state and said, I'm in, I'm committed. 100% of our spiritual growth is letting go. Are you willing to let go? Are you willing to be changed? Are you willing to be more magnificent than you can even imagine yourself to be and not give a rat's rear end what anybody else thinks about you? Even you. That's the commitment to transform. To just wrap ourselves in the cocoon. To know that what created us just wants to express magnificence as us. And all we have to do is keep living in the question of what is it? And then we listen, not to this, to this. We listen to this. To the intuitive, to that still small voice within. And when the ideas come and they seem like they're nuts, we chuckle and we say, all right. And we step off the bridge before we know. Step off the cliff, even if we can't see the bridge. And we trust that the bridge will either be built below us or we will learn to fly. But no harm can come. Not really. Doesn't mean we won't have challenging circumstances in this human realm. That just would be stupid and a big old lie if I told you that. But you'll be just fine. Because that's all you can be. This week, I'm going to start wrapping up with this. For many folks, we have just entered a Holy Week. Okay? For those that follow the traditional path of Christianity, it is at a time of reflection, of reviewing the events leading up to the crucifixion and resurrection of Jesus. For our Jewish family members, it's a time of the Passover, which is a remembrance and celebration of the freedom from oppression of the Israelites in Egypt. It's all about freedom, right? The whole crucifixion story is about releasing the physical into the spiritual. It parallels beautifully with visioning. And so I invite you to consider that there are lessons at every faith tradition. That the Christ consciousness, right? This is what Joel Goldsmith, and if you're not familiar with Joel Goldsmith, I highly recommend you make friends with Joel Goldsmith. Right? Here's what Joel Goldsmith says. The Christ is here. It is your very own consciousness. When human thought is stilled, where human effort ends, the activity of the Christ begins. That's visioning. Let's take this into prayer. So with this breath, I recognize that there is one infinite, ever-present life, that it was here as this building when I arrived. It arrived as me into this building that is the divine in form. That it is truly everywhere present. It is present in, through, and as each individualized expression of itself sitting in this space, joining us virtually. It is the platform that we use to connect ourselves beyond time and space. We are surrounded by it, infused with it. And it is expressing itself as our life. I know this is true because what is created out of the substance must contain the substance. And so I speak my word this morning, recognizing that it is a word of the infinite spoken in, through, and as me. Declaring, affirming, taking ownership of that chrysalis process. Saying yes to entering the cocoon, to surrendering, to releasing every idea in this human realm that I think is me. And opening to the question, what is the divine's highest idea of itself as my life? As the life of my ministry, as the life of Sierra Center for Spiritual Living, as the life of my marriage, as the life of everything I think, say, and do. Quieting the brain so that I can hear the mind. And I say yes. I say yes to that transformational process that renders the previous version of me unrecognizable, that expands the expression of the infinite as me, as all of the ways I show up in the world. Grateful, so incredibly grateful to simply embrace, to embody, to allow the truth that I am made of imaginal cells. That I am an imaginal cell in the mind of the infinite. And that what is true of me is true of all. All brilliantly expressing as an expansion of the divine. So in this celebration, in this unmitigated joy of gratitude, I let go. I let it be. And I invite you with this next breath to own the words of this prayer as your own. And to join me as we say together, Amen. Amin. Shalom. Aho. Ashe. And so it is. So this is our time of sacred giving. And for those of you in the room, there's a basket over on the table by the door. We're not actually going to pass it because we're not passing things these days. There are things on planet Earth we don't want to pass. So we're going to honor that. For those of you joining us virtually, I invite you to go to our website, www.sierracenter.org, to give, or you are welcome to mail your contribution physically through the Postal Service to P.O. Box 2714, Grass Valley 95945. All right, so let's say our prosperity affirmation together. And for the folks in the room, since it's on the back wall, we'll do a little call and response here. I'll read this first sentence, and then you read it back to me, and we'll go through it that way. I give this gift with love and joy from a consciousness of abundance. Divine love blesses and prospers all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is. What a joy it is to be with you guys. So we are open. We do still have space. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We still got room for about 8 more folks in here. We do ask that you sign up through the Sign Up Genius, and if you don't, that's okay too. Just know that doing that guarantees you a seat. Right? At some point, we're going to be exceeding our 15-person maximum, and that's okay. We have a speaker out on the front porch, so you can just grab a seat on the steps and listen that way if we're over 15 and you didn't sign up. So I'm excited. We're moving forward. I would love to tell you I know what it's going to look like from day to day, but as I shared with the board Thursday during our board meeting, it's a bit like nailing Jell-O to the wall right now. I put it someplace and then I watch and see where it slides. And it's all good, right? We're creative beings, and so here we are. Just want to quickly remind you, Tuesday night, Actualizing Wholeness. Wednesday night, Ask the Rev Anything. And please do, if you want to have your voice heard, go to that values clarification and click on that and give me your feedback. So we're going to close with our final song. I will see you on Zoom as soon as the live feed is over. Here we go.
1, 2, 3, 4. Together we'll stand, the fire will fall. Come on, people, let's get on and put together. Come on, let's put together. Because together we will stand, everybody is part of the plan. Small case in hand.